the St. Louis now.
Oh no! Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at some subscriber replays, and the first one we are taking a look at is Garrett. Yes, Garrett is also a member of NGA. Great player as well, and always great to see a replay here from Garrett. So, we can see that we are in our Sims, and we're on Two Brothers. Now, I don't have a Sims myself. It was one of those pre-order ships when the game went into from closed beta to open beta, and I believe yeah, and you could, if you bought it, you could actually get the ship right away in closed beta and start using it. So there was the Sims, there was the Gremyashki, and there was the Yabari. They had those three separate packages you could purchase, or you could purchase one package that had all three. Now, I just purchased the Gremyashki package myself. I never actually got the Sims. I've heard some mixed feelings about, or mixed opinions, I guess, about the Sims. I'm not much of an American Destroyer captain myself, so hard for me to say, but we are going to watch Garrett play in The Sims today, and Garrett has a certain way with American Destroyers, and it just makes them work. So you can see that we're instantly going to head over here to the west side, right? And we do notice on the minimap that we do have several players that are coming along with us as well, which isn't too bad, because at the end of the day, we are going to need some support. The Sims herself has 4 main turrets, and she does have 2 torpedo launchers on her as well. Now, the torpedo launchers themselves are mounted midship, so you can fire from either side, which is always great. I think she's like a weaker Benson, maybe. Her torpedoes aren't as good as the Bensons, and she's missing a turret over the Benson, because the Benson can have 5 main turrets, I believe, anyway. Limited knowledge about American Destroyers anyway. But you can see instantly comes under attack from airplanes here. So we do have to turn, we do have to make some maneuvers here, because we really don't want to get eaten up by these planes, and it can happen. It can be quite tragic when a destroyer gets killed right at the beginning by aircraft. It's like, oh, come on. But it can happen. Anyway, we managed to dodge the torpedoes, and we do see more planes incoming, but again, you can see that, Garrett's maneuvers here brought him back to the fleet, at least the allied ships that are supporting him over here. So not only is he, benefiting from his AA, but he's also benefiting from their AA, which is really, really important. And you can see the incoming planes that did manage to get in here and drop their ordnance, didn't actually manage to do anything to Garrett, anything further other than that, initial torpedo strike there. So that's not too shabby at all. Now we are going to move into A. We know that something is already in A capping. We can't see exactly what it is, but we do know it's a destroyer, and up pops a destroyer. So there may be 2 destroyers over here at the very least. Something is still in there capping. Now we're going to launch our smoke, which is always a great plan here, especially for the protection of the team, right? Because the team behind the smoke is going to be unseen as well. Now when you do this though, do note, it's important to note, that you really do need to have an allied ship that's able to see through the smoke in order to keep those enemy ships spotted. Now in this case, Garrett is acting as that ship because our friendly Miyoko just got obliterated, but Garrett is acting as that person, right? As long as he stays on the right side of the smoke and not seen, he's going to keep these players lit so that his team behind the smoke will have some relative security there and still be able to shoot at the enemy. So very important destroyer captains to keep this in mind. I always do like using smoke for myself, but if you don't have to, the team really does benefit from it as well. Now we can see the 2 enemy destroyers, right? At least one of those enemy destroyers was able to cap A, so we are going to have to eventually do something about this. Maybe. I mean, take a look at the minimap, right? If our allies were a little heavier over there on the east side of the map, we'd be able to, say, just play a defense or play a stalling action over here in the west. But there's not a whole lot of allies we have over there on the east, and it doesn't look like the capture of that point is going very well at all. So over here on the west side, where we have the majority of our allied ships, we are going to have to push and take this cap. It's going to have to happen. Now we do manage to get a torpedo hit there. One of our torpedoes hit something in the smoke, probably one of the enemy destroyers, so fantastic. That's a little bit of damage. The torpedoes on the Sims don't do a whole lot of damage. I think you can actually switch torpedoes. It decreases the range of the torpedoes but increases the damage that they do. But I do believe that the range is then like 5.5 kilometers or something like that. Something not so great. So yeah, you can use the long range torpedoes, but they really don't do that much damage. Whatever though, right? Whatever. Our smoke is still up, so we're going to start, maneuvering over here towards, again, the most concentration of our allies, and just continue to harass the enemies, right? We're not making any, big pushes at this point in time. Really what Garrett is doing is he's letting his team, for the most part right now, just kind of work over the enemies. His team seems to be in a pretty good position to do that. So he's going to, the team is going to work over the enemies. Garrett is in an excellent position, as we can see here, to sort of pick off any enemy ships that break away from the pack or are on really low health, and also continue to harass the enemy with the torpedo walls that he's able to just, sort of throw down range at the smoke. We do know that there still is another enemy destroyer around here somewhere. We see one on our screen right now. I'm not sure if that was the same one as a while ago, but still, at least we know where one is, and there could be enemies still in that smoke, so we're going to let our torpedo walls go. Now, if we take a look at the minimap again, we notice that our allied ships are pretty reluctant to actually, it kind of looks like, they're pretty reluctant to actually make a move, and, looking at the situation, this wouldn't be a bad time for the team to make a play, right? The enemies are also kind of in disarray. We can see that they have taken some damage. We've taken out some of their ships as well, in fact, a number of their ships, so this is pretty good. We're in a good position to really push this cap. And I mean, Garrett is going to, obviously all over this as well. He sees the situation unfolding, and if we now look at the minimap as well, we'll notice that a lot of our allies have actually turned about, and most of them are actually going to start making their way into the cap. So fantastic, right? The team has recognized the situation here of what's unfolding, and it is an excellent time to actually put some pressure now on the west side. We can get in here and take this cap, right? And that's important to note. It was important that we took this west side cap because this is where the concentration of our allied ships was. But you got to do it smartly, right? You don't want to just charge in there and take it. The enemies were over here in force, so you do want to have good positioning, to work over the enemies, do the damage to the enemy ships, take out a few enemy ships before you make your final push. And you can see, I mean, it really worked out. Even though Garrett's team didn't have the cap, they're still ahead overall in points. I mean, granted, it's a very, very small lead, but they're still ahead overall in points, right? And now that, they're taking the cap, they're just going to increase that lead ever so much. So it's a really good situation we've got going on here. So we can see that we have an enemy destroyer who is engaging us, and the player has managed to take out our engine. Now Garrett has last stand on the captain here, obviously, so not using the repair, which is a pretty good call in case the enemy destroyer were to continue to fire at us and we were actually to catch fire, right? Because fire on a destroyer is pretty deadly. Obviously torpedo hits on a destroyer are also very deadly, but generally speaking, when a destroyer gets hit with a torpedo, it's all over. So the biggest threat is the fire. You get hit by a few shells, you get set on fire, which does damage over time. You don't have your repair to do anything about the fire, and you'll quickly burn out. So good call there to keep the old repair party down. Plus, I mean, the engine is now repaired. It didn't take any time at all for that to get repaired, so excellent. We can see a Scharnhorst here now in front of us that we're engaging, and we do have a lot of our allied ships here with us as well to support, right? Looking at the minimap, we notice that Garrett is sailing away from the Scharnhorst while we have our allies sailing towards the Scharnhorst, right? So if we can keep this Scharnhorst on fire, we can potentially do some good things. Now, we do see some torpedoes coming in here from an enemy destroyer, and whew, get real lucky there. Fantastic, though. We are still contesting the A cap, right? And we have it mostly capped. We're not gaining any points just yet because of the Scharnhorst here, but once the Scharnhorst is gone, one less enemy ship to worry about. We could potentially finish off the cap and take the, finish off the cap and actually start taking points. We see the Cyclone moving in, and I think this is a new effect where, it actually does get a whole lot darker now in the Cyclone, and I like this. I did, several surveys, as I'm sure most of you did as well. They were, thrown out to, I assume, all players, asking how the Cyclones can be improved and whatnot, and that is one thing that I commented on. Like, it should get darker when the cyclone moves in. I want to feel like the howling wind and rain effect, right? The rain, I think, should be really more horizontal, like sweeping across the screen, and you have to feel the effects of wind. I'm not sure how but you have to feel that. But more importantly too, within the cyclone, I think that the seas should be a lot more choppy, but whatever. Anyway, that's my feedback on cyclones. Moving into the cap, you can see that our team has it capped, right? We just took it. Fantastic. Looking at the enemy ships remaining, there's not a whole lot of enemy ships remaining, right? We've got 4 ships. We've only lost 2 on our side, so this was a really, really excellent game. And as bonus, over there on the east side, you know, they took their time with it as well, and they also managed to take out the enemy ships over there and take the cap. And I mean, again, you know, if we remember back to how the enemy was positioned, the majority of the enemy ships were over here on the west. So, you know, it really goes to show what taking your time really can do, and just some good positioning overall, right? Good positioning on your part, good positioning on the team's part. It can really, really pay off. So we see an enemy battleship here off in the distance. This will probably be the last enemy ship that we're going to take out before victory, potentially. Garrett is really close here to getting a Kraken as well. I think we're sitting on 3 kills at this time, so if we can get 2 more kills, which is possible, we might be able to pull ourselves a Kraken, and that would be like the icing on the cake for this battle anyway. So we have more shots going into this enemy New Mexico, this poor enemy New Mexico. We can see our allies are all over the player here as well. There we go, we get the kill. That's our 4th kill. Enemy guys now, I believe, or guys now right here on our port side. So we're going to launch our torpedoes. Again, we have 2 torpedo launchers here, so we launch 1 strike off. We readjust depending on where the enemy player is going to be going, and then we fire more off the player as well. I guess that's a Scharnhorst actually, looking at her now, but still, 4 torpedo hits, or well, 3 torpedo hits, finishes off the enemy Scharnhorst. Victory is ours, and Kraken is ours as well. So we can take a look at the final results. 60,000 damage done. We got the Kraken, 451,000 credits earned, 6,800 experience as well. So not too bad at all. And, you know, a really, really great game overall, right? Everyone on the, well, most of the people on the team really played a good game. And we can see that here reflected in the overall results. With Garrett, you know, sitting on top at about 2,200 base experience. Not too shabby at all. We can see some of those Scharnhorsts who did take a lot of, well, a bit of torpedo damage, right? Again, the torpedoes on the Sims, you know, the ranged torpedoes on the Sims don't do a whole lot of damage. When all said and done, 366,000 credits is what we walk away with, and again, 6,800 experience overall. Fantastic game. So moving into the next replay, you can see we jump on over into ranked battles. We're back with Alexei, and we are in a Tirpitz this time around. Ranked battles. Now, I haven't actually gotten to play any ranked battles this week at all. I'm still sitting at rank 11. Today being Saturday, October 22nd, I am going to go ahead and play mostly ranked battles for the rest of the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to try and get myself, I'd like to get myself to 10. Even better would be to get myself maybe to like 9 or 8, because ranked battles is going to be ending, as we know. I believe it ends on November 1st, and I think that we are coming into the last week of October, so we have a bit of time. It's just ranked battles is a bit of a commitment. For me anyway, because it's just, you know, I really do have to sit down and play for about 3 hours usually, and to find 3 hours to play during the week is incredibly difficult. However, on the weekends, very much possible. So generally speaking, I have to wait until the weekends to start playing any ranked battles, but still, I'm happy enough with my progress. I never went into this ranked battle season with the objective of getting to rank 1 or anything like that. It was all about the rewards and the credits. If I could just get 1 more rank to get those next rewards, if I could, you know, get that next flag package, get the next camo, whatever, that was the goal here, and I'm happy with what I've done so far. Anyway, moving into Alexei's battle here. So, on Northern Lights, we can see, you know, we are going to contest what point is this? A? Yes, we are going to contest the A point. Right off the bat, we have Thotgor off in the distance, who's making some pretty deadly mistakes, right? When you're in a cruiser, in any battle, really. It doesn't matter if it's ranked, doesn't matter what battle. You do not want to be the first person spotted. You just don't want to be the first person spotted. You can see how well it worked out here for our Thotgor friend. And, you know, as a cruiser captain myself, I can tell you I have played many a battle where I've learned this lesson very, very harshly. You do not want to charge forward in your cruiser right off the bat. There's a time and a place for charging in a cruiser. It is not at the beginning of the battle. The only ships really who should be charging at the beginning of a battle are your destroyers, maybe a battleship as well, depending on what battleships your team has. Anyway, enemies have already started capping the B point. Alexi's team here is still positioning in and around the A point. Looks like we're going to run into a friendly Yamagi here. Yeah, no big deal really. All of the allied ships are just sort of shuffling around outside here of A, trying to make sure that they are defending it and that, Alexi's team is able to start capping it. Because we do see we have a friendly destroyer in front of us who's now in the cap and started to cap it. So this is great. This is ideal. Ranked battles do play a little differently than random battles, obviously, right? Fewer ships, but generally speaking, too, there's little more strategy going on here as well. A little more thought is going into some of these moves. So in a random battle, you might start seeing people just charge on through like we have our friendly Turpits doing. But in a ranked battle, this is not something that you want to do. Again, it's very early in the battle. You should be considering your position. You should be considering, shots that you have on enemy ships, trying to get yourself in a good position to receive as little damage as possible, while at the same time trying to dish out as much damage as you possibly can to the enemy team. It's so critical. And we can see, we didn't see our friendly Turpits die, but we can see that the friendly Turpits has died and what that got that player, right? So I think the key thing to remember is, don't be so quick to label your team as a bunch of pansies or a bunch of potatoes who aren't pushing forward, right? Give the battle a little bit of time to progress. Now, obviously, our aircraft carrier does fall under the potato category. That is unfortunate, granted. But sometimes not everyone will, right? And it's important that you let the, maybe 2 to 5 minutes of the beginning battle, let it play out and see what happens. In that whole time, you should be in a ranked battle. You should be considering your position to make sure that, again, you're taking as little damage as you can, or mitigating as much as you possibly can, while at the same time having a good position to maybe defend your cap, but more importantly, to dish out damage to the enemy, right? The more damage that you can dish out to the enemy players, the better your team is going to be. Because that is going to really, really come into play at the end of the battle. As we move into the end game of the battle, right? It really is going to come into play. So it's just so critical. Do not charge forward. 2 excellent examples, right? We saw the Thotgor get destroyed, and we briefly saw our Turpits just get obliterated by something and then eventually just get killed. So it doesn't pay off. It just doesn't. So we can see we do have an enemy, I think that's an enemy Turpits as well, enemy Bismarck. Enemy Bismarck off in the distance. Now, Bismarck is a much better ship than the Turpits. At least I think so anyway. The Bismarck has, much better secondaries. She doesn't have the torpedoes, granted, that the Turpits does, but the guns overall are a little better as well. The Turpits obviously does have torpedoes, though. So, Alexei sees the enemy Bismarck here and basically does the only thing that he can do. Close the distance as much as he as quick as he possibly can. Fire torpedoes. Luckily for Alexei here as well, we'll notice that the Bismarck is only returning fire right now, right? The Bismarck player was totally unaware of what's going on. And in fact, his main guns are still turning towards Alexei, and we can see that our torpedoes almost have gone in, and we do get ourselves a nice high caliber early enough in the battle here as well against this enemy Bismarck here, so not too shabby at all. So we're going to start turning to get our other torpedoes off if the enemy Bismarck even survives this much. We have been taking quite a bit of damage from the Bismarck here, but again, this Bismarck player just wasn't wasn't paying attention. The situational awareness here, I don't think was present. You can see the enemy Bismarck player does attempt to go in for the ram, but Alexei manages to avoid it there right at the last second. We have a few final shots going off. There we go. Enemy Bismarck is gone. And our team has also managed to take out one of the enemy destroyers as well. Now, in the meantime, we did lose our aircraft carrier. We've lost our Tirpitz, and we've also lost a destroyer ourselves. So we have 4 ships, but the enemy only has 4 ships as well. Being that we're in a Tirpitz, right? I know that we're on about half health, maybe a little under, but this is still a lot of hit points. We still have some charges left on our heal ability, so, you know, things are still looking up. Plus, we have our torpedoes all ready to go. So we're going to fire our torpedoes, obviously waiting until our ally Amagi gets out of the way, and we'll fire our torpedoes off the enemy Amagi. Now, the enemy Amagi here is in a pretty desperate situation. Whoops, let's see what we got going on here. Oh, okay, sorry. Just a few text messages. Anyway. We do see torpedoes go into the enemy Amagi. That player is gone. Don't have to worry about him anymore. And the enemies are now down to 3 ships remaining. Fantastic. The Tirpitz really does excel, much like the Bismarck, at close range, brawling. And you can see that this is what Alexei has basically done. We took out the Bismarck, we brawled it out with the Bismarck there, and you know, really that player, that Bismarck captain, had no idea what was going on. And Alexei took advantage of it. Bismarck gone. Then we were able to gang up on an enemy Amagi, really close range, with a friendly Amagi as well, right? And just obliterate that player. Gone. And that is huge, huge blows to the enemy team there. To have, you know, 2 of your friendly battleships just taken out with, you know, very little or very early on is catastrophic. Catastrophic. And now it's really just a cleanup operation here. And in this span of time that we've had, Alexei is dished out. We're sitting at about 141,000 damage so far here. And the Tirpitz is definitely capable of more. We can see our torpedoes reload. Alexei basically instantly fires them off here at this enemy North Carolina. It looks like the enemy North Carolina has basically given up. Maybe the player is disconnected. Not 100% sure. Get 2, is that 2 citadels? Yeah, 2 citadels there on the enemy North Carolina. Player's gone. 166,000 damage. Amazing. The enemies have 1 destroyer remaining and their aircraft carrier left. We can see that their enemy destroyer is obviously in A right. Not only do we see it, but we'll notice that, you know, obviously just took the A cap there. So we're going to have to try and do something against this enemy destroyer. Again, the Tirpitz excels close in. We have decent secondary armament. It's you know, it's decent, that's for sure. The torpedoes are, you know, can't stress them enough. And we were actually talking about it last night in TeamSpeak. It still is a shock, just a pure shock to me to think that people forget or don't know that a Tirpitz has torpedoes, the Scharnhorst has torpedoes, and the Gneisenau has torpedoes. They do. They always did. I don't know why. Why people don't know about this. Maybe it's, you know, that they're damaging the torpedo racks on these ships, and they think that took out the torpedoes. I mean, granted, the torpedo racks, you know, will, you know, just be taken out fairly easily. But they do get damaged a lot as well, and that damage is repairable. So, you know, you are going to have them back. I don't know. Anyway, we see the enemy destroyer being engaged by some of our allies. You can see the enemy aircraft carrier as well as harassing our allied planes, but luckily so far is leaving Alexei alone. Now, Alexei is making his way, you know, over to the eastern side of the map, because I think that is where the aircraft carrier is going to be. At least that's where the planes seem to be coming from, right? The enemy destroyer is now gone. One of our allies managed to get that kill, so that is fantastic. Good show. We only have the enemy aircraft carrier remaining. And again, it seems as though the planes are coming from the east side of the map. So most likely, the enemy aircraft carrier is somewhere over here, and that's exactly where Alexei is going to be headed. Trying to find the enemy aircraft carrier to get the battle finished. Even though it's only 1 ship remaining, if that enemy aircraft carrier, right, depending on how many planes the enemy aircraft carrier has remaining, that enemy aircraft carrier can do some damage here, right? Could maybe take out our friendly destroyer, depending on how much hit points our other friendly battleship has remaining. Could take that player out. So we do still want to be careful, and it is going to be important to try and take this ship out as quickly as we possibly can. So we do see torpedo bombers coming in. And we are gonna, there we go. Enemy aircraft carrier spotted, right? It did look like they came from pretty close, so we can see the enemy Shuikaku, and we're instantly going to try and engage this player. I really don't like aircraft carriers. Really don't like aircraft carrier or playing aircraft carriers. It's not that I don't like having them in battle and playing against them. It's fine, I guess, whatever. But I really don't like them the way that they are in game, and I just can't wait for another overhaul on them. Now, I don't know, any inside information again about anything going on, anything like that. It's just the aircraft carriers are in such a sorry state right now that I'm just assuming that there is an overhaul. There has to be something coming. Has to be. And I think that they have said, Wargaming has said that, yeah, there is stuff coming and whatnot for the aircraft carriers. So it's so sad right now. But anyway, we can see we did get engaged by some dive bombers, easily able to put out the fire there. We do see that the enemy Shuikaku is basically reversing and going forward in amongst the little channel over here. So we're going to try and do something against this player here. Basically just get the player gone, right? So we can call it a victory. We're at a little over 900 points right now. The enemy aircraft carrier is now capping the B zone. Really not that big of a deal, but still. If we can manage to get the player down, we're sitting on about 170,000 damage now. We might be able to get ourselves Confederate medal, maybe. That would be pretty fancy. But more importantly, just more damage, right? We're in a premium ship. That is just going to equate to more credits, and credits are always the thing you want here on your premium. So we're going to launch our torpedoes off into the channel. If the enemy Shuikaku decides to be at that place at this time, he's going to get, or rather the player is going to get some torpedoes to the face. We see that we are still loading armor piercing, and this is what you want to do, right? There we go. 2 citadel hits, and we take out the Shuikaku. It's what you want to do against the higher tier aircraft carriers, because you will get citadel hits on them, and it will be a massive amount of damage. So 5 citadel hits in the battle here. 193,000 damage is what we end up finishing off with. So great game by Alexei here. You can see finished as top of the team overall with well over 2,000 base experience to boot, which is not too bad at all. Plus the victory on the ranked battle. You can see how some of the damage is broken down here. That poor Amagi, poor Amagi. 61,000 to the Amagi, 43,000 to the North Carolina, and then it was a crap ton to that Bismarck as well. 382,000 credits is what we end up walking away with on a standard account, and 4,300 base experience as well. So pretty fantastic. So that is the end of today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks as always to both Alexei and Garrett for sending in the replays. Thank you to everyone else who has been sending in replays. You guys have been having some pretty great battles. Always great to see. So leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those, responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.